We have a large group of NHL restricted free agent players who are now becoming unrestricted free agents because they did not receive their qualifying offers from their existing teams. In today's video, I'm going to explain the qualifying offer process and go over the list of players that are now unrestricted free agents. And that's coming up next. Welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. So as I mentioned, today was the deadline, June the 25th, for having restricted free agents receive their qualifying offers from their existing NHL clubs. So before we jump into the list of players that are now unrestricted free agents, I just want to take a minute here and explain the qualifying offer process in case you're not aware. So a qualifying offer is essentially a one-year standard player contract with that NHL team that they're currently holding their NHL rights. Submitting the qualifying offer essentially allows the two to continue negotiating. However, based on the CBA, there is a minimum amount that NHL teams are required to offer these players in these situations, and it's all based on their prior salary, and that ranges anywhere from 100 to 110% of their prior contract salary amount here. So NHL teams have until June the 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern Time to submit these qualifying offers, and then players have until July the 15th to either accept or decline these offers. If they decline the qualifying offer, they still remain a restricted free agent, and that NHL team still holds their existing rights. And if they, of course, do not receive a qualifying offer, like the players we're going to discuss here today, they then become an unrestricted free agent. Now, of course, there might be a couple of reasons why teams don't qualify players. There's really two big ones. One, it's just not working out for the player and they want to cut ties with them altogether. The second reason might not be that they don't want to have them a part of the organization anymore, but they might not be wanting to pay them what the required salary amount is going to be by qualifying them. So, for example, based on the prior year's salary, if they have to offer them 5 or 10% increase on that salary that they're making before, and they weren't overly pleased with the results for based on what they're paying them, they may not want to pay that amount, so they may want to not offer the qualifying offer, make them an unrestricted free agent, but then also continue to negotiate and possibly retain them on a cheaper contract, which we might see in some of these cases here as well. So essentially, submitting a qualifying offer is really just to keep the negotiation process going, keeps their rights. Of course, it also gives NHL clubs the first right of refusal here to match any offer sheets. So once the qualifying offer is submitted, if that player does then talk to NHL teams during the RFA interview period and they do sign an offer sheet, they obviously have first right to match here. So now let's take a look at these players who are not receiving qualifying offers and are now unrestricted free agents and free to sign with any NHL club. Now, of course, you're going to notice a trend here. Obviously, a lot of these guys exactly haven't been letting it up. Many of these players have been struggling. Some of these guys have been in the minors as well. There are certainly some other players as well that are part of NHL organizations that are not showing here on this list, but players that are lesser known or mainly played in the minors. These are only players that at least have some NHL experience that you guys would all be familiar with. Now, getting started here with the Arizona Coyotes, they have a couple of forwards in Josh Archibald and Nick Cousins. I was a little bit surprised, to be honest, that Josh Archibald was not qualified, but like I said, it might just be a case where they may not want to pay the required salary on that qualifying offer. It is possible they could continue to negotiate with him and still come to terms. Now, of course, you get the Calgary Flames, have a few of these guys. They've got Curtis Lazar and Kirby Reichel. Of course, these guys are former first-round draft picks here, not looking too good. I did see an update, though, from the Calgary Flames for Curtis Lazar that they are interested in keeping him in the organization and they are continuing to negotiate. So it is possible that he still might get signed. They also did not qualify goaltender Mason McDonald, who's been part of the organization here for quite some time here as well. Another thing too as well to keep in mind, some of these RFAs, if they get their qualifying offer on their next contract, will be arbitration eligible. Obviously, sometimes teams are not fond of the arbitration process, so if they can keep a player from being arbitration eligible, they will certainly do so, especially if they feel like they might lose the case in the future here. So obviously, that's another thing to keep in mind. Some of these guys would have retained arbitration rights on their next contract if they would have received a qualifying offer. Now, jumping over to the Colorado Avalanche, forward Sven Andrighetto did not receive his qualifying offer. Obviously been in the league for a while, started with Montreal, jumped over to Colorado here, and really hasn't built any kind of consistency here. So hard to say what the future holds here for Andrighetto. Dallas Stars did not qualify a couple of forwards, including Brett Ritchie and the very newly acquired Ryan Hartman. I was a little bit surprised they acquired Hartman, but yet did not qualify him. But again, I do believe that's another prime example here, is that they just did not want to qualify him because of the salary that they would have had to pay. He would have been due a raise over his prior salary, and obviously they feel like they want to pay him the same or less than before. Now, the league minimum is now $700K as well, with all the changes we've seen to the salary cap and everything as well. So obviously that will play a role in some of these contracts. But obviously Ryan Hartman, in case you didn't see as well, he had a post on his Twitter account a couple of days ago that he was basically going off the grid, and then he ended up getting traded and then not qualified, becoming an unrestricted free agent. And many people still believe that he still doesn't even know about this. He might by now, by the time I get this posted. There's even some posts on Twitter from his mother trying to get a hold of him, saying, Ryan, you need to call your mother right away. So we're not even sure right now if Ryan Hartman's aware of everything that's transpired in his NHL career here over the past couple days since he's been off the grid. So hopefully he gets all the news here and gets things in order, because he's now an unrestricted free agent. Jumping over to the Edmonton Oilers, they also have a couple of forwards. Not a big surprise here. You get Ty Rattie and Tobias Reeder. Reeder especially, I'm not surprised at. Obviously, Toby Reeder did not score any goals last year, really struggled. I kind of wondered maybe, just maybe, there might be a slim chance with Dave Tippett being the new coach that they might give him another shot, because Toby Reeder played his best hockey in the Coyotes organization when Tippett was coaching there, but apparently they've opted to go a different direction. But again, you never know. They very well could look to negotiate a cheaper contract, but based on how things went and all the comments from Bob Nicholson before, I really think that's highly doubtful. Now, of course, Ty Rattie, on the other hand, was a preseason wonder last year, but could not translate into the regular season. Obviously, he's been able to put up some good numbers and look good early on in the past couple of years, but can't seem to sustain it. He's been given numerous opportunities. Not really sure what the future holds for Rattie at the NHL. Of course, you got the LA Kings and Nikita Scherbak, who's a former Montreal Canadian first-round pick. Obviously got traded to LA, I believe it was about a year ago. Did not pan out really in LA last year, and is now an unrestricted free agent. The Minnesota Wild did not qualify forward Pontus Aberg. He's bounced around a bit too. And Aberg certainly does have some NHL ability, though, in my opinion. I would not be surprised to see him given an opportunity somewhere. In my opinion, Aberg could be a prime candidate for a nice cheap contract for a depth piece, signed to like a league minimum $700K contract for 1 year, and just very well might find the right landing spot and pan out here. But Aberg certainly, I think of all these guys, might be one of the ones more likely at least to get an opportunity. Of course, you get New Jersey Devils forward Stefan Nason, who obviously was a former first-round pick of the Ottawa Senators, kind of bounced around, struggled a little bit, finally found a home in New Jersey, kind of worked his way up the lineup, but now he's being passed in the depth chart here by some of their younger forwards, so hard to say what the future holds for him. Nashville Predators did not qualify Philip DiGiuseppe. Of course, he did play for a while in the NHL Carolina, but kind of has struggled to find consistency at the NHL level, not really getting much opportunity, mostly playing in the minors. Into Philadelphia Flyers, and Justin Bailey was not qualified. Debatable what happens with him. I think he probably gets an opportunity, more than likely a two-way contract somewheres. St. Louis Blues did not qualify Nikita Shoshnikov. The former Toronto Maple Leaf and looks to be a former member of the St. Louis Blues as well now, appears to be headed for the KHL. I'm not sure if the contract that he was looking for was officially signed yet, but I did see reports that he was supposedly heading over back to Russia. So we'll see here. Now, of course, one of these that's a little bit surprising to me was San Jose not qualifying defenseman Joakim Ryan. Now, of course, as we discussed a few days ago in one of our trade rumor videos, they've already moved a defenseman in Justin Braun, and they apparently appear to be open, it said, to trading some more defensemen like Dylan and Ryan. But of course, now Ryan's going to become a UFA, so they very well might let him walk. I mean, they could negotiate a cheaper contract. I suppose that's possible, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him leave here, because they're really tight to the cap and don't really have a lot of money to spend. So I was a little surprised on that. I thought they might try to retain him and then facilitate a trade, but I guess we'll see. They may have already explored that enough to know that it might have been difficult to do. Of course, the Toronto Maple Leafs did not qualify Igor Ozhiganov. Of course, that's not a big surprise. It's already believed that he's headed to the KHL as well. I don't know if he's officially signed a contract or not, but I know he was definitely heading to Russia to play in that league. The Washington Capitals did not qualify Dmitry Yaskin. Of course, he was claimed from the St. Louis Blues. Like a lot of these guys, though, Yaskin certainly has not found a lot of consistency and has struggled. He did put up 8 points in 37 games last year for the Caps, but obviously they're in the process of shedding some salary, and it probably doesn't make sense for them to retain him anyway. The Vancouver Canucks had a bunch of guys not qualified, and a few of them were a tad bit surprising, but I do think they're continuing to negotiate with a couple of these guys at least. They did not qualify forwards Marcus Granlund or Brendan Gaunce, and they also did not qualify defensemen Ben Hutton and Derek Pouliot. Now, Pouliot was not a surprise at all. I was already aware that that was going to happen. They'd made that known probably at least a week to 10 days ago, maybe a little more. I don't remember exactly when that was, but I know it was previously announced that Pouliot would not be given his qualifying offer. But Hutton and Granlund was a little bit surprising. There was some talk at the NHL draft that the Canucks were obviously working on maybe trading for Tyson Barrie with Colorado, and there was some speculation here that Ben Hutton was a player that the Avalanche wanted included and the Canucks wouldn't do it. Which I find incredibly weird, especially now that they're not qualifying him. Obviously, Ben Hutton made $2.8 million last year, so based on that salary, they obviously don't feel that he's justified in making that or more. So they obviously would probably prefer to renegotiate a cheaper contract. I don't think Ben Hutton is 100% completely done with Vancouver, although he could be. Of course, when teams do this, they do risk losing these players for nothing. But we'll see what happens with Hutton. I just found it weird here in the reports that they would not include Hutton. That was one of the sticking points in the trade to acquire Tyson Barrie. But anyways, I guess we'll see as more details may emerge on that. And now Granlund, on the other hand, was making $1.475. Not quite clear if they're going to try to negotiate something cheaper with him or they'll just let him go. And of course, the Winnipeg Jets had a trio of players also not qualified, including a couple defensemen, Nathan Beaulieu and Joe Morrow, as well as forward Marco Dano. Now, Dano hasn't really had a ton of opportunity here in the past couple of years. That does not come as a surprise at all. I was a little bit surprised on Beaulieu with all the question marks on the Jets' blue line and all the contracts that need to be done. I thought they might qualify him, but obviously, again, a lot of these guys, it boils down to the amounts that they have to give them on the offer. So they very well could possibly negotiate with Beaulieu or Morrow, but I do believe that they're going to probably use that money to go after more like a Ben Sherratt and maybe continue talking with Tyler Myers. Obviously, those guys proved to be a little bit more valuable, so I do think that they'll attempt to sign at least one of those guys instead, and these two here very well might find themselves a new home if they're able to get a contract with another club. So that is your list of RFA players that are now unrestricted free agents because they did not receive their qualifying offer. Hopefully now you understand the qualifying offer process if you didn't before as well. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, certainly give this video a thumbs up and stay tuned to Top Shelf Hockey for all the breaking news. There's going to be lots more NHL news coming here as we approach free agency. We've had a lot of trade activity lately. So there should be plenty of content here at Top Shelf Hockey in the coming days, and I'll keep you all up to date with all the breaking news. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.